Okay, so at the photography bar, there's always exclusive access, and we are here with Sony behind. Okay, so and we're with Luke, events marketing manager, and thank you for joining us, Luke. So, what's hot on the Sony stand camera-wise?
Two new hot products, well, 3 products, 2 cameras, 1 lens. So I'm going to take you through first. The first one would be the ZVE1, which is kind of a full-frame vlogging camera, and this is really incredible. So this is going to give you the ability to shoot in 4K, 60 frames per second, up to 120 frames per second. Also has all of our latest AI technologies as well. So face recognition for humans, for birds, for insects, for trains. The AI face recognition technology is so good, we can choose between left eye, right eye, and it will process and track. Now this is fantastic for vloggers. You know, it's going to give you the ability to flip the screen around, keep that on you. You no longer using a crop sensor. You know, you've got a full frame sensor being able to record really high quality formats, which is going to be great for putting on YouTube and stuff like that. So this is a really sought after product, and a lot of people are coming to see it specifically as it's a hybrid camera. No EV like viewfinder. It's just got a tilt out screen that we can use to adjust. On the front of this, we have a really interesting lens. So we have a 24 to 50. 24 gives us the ability to shoot wide with 2.8 all the way through. So if you are a hybrid shooter and you're forced between shooting stills and video, you've got the option to shoot really wide in video and cropping, but then also you can go to that nifty 50 range to shoot portraiture for that kind of young up and coming content creator that's kind of merging between stills and video. I've got a camera that can service both of those, so that's really high look sort of sought after these 2 products here. But the flagship stuff is the a9 Mark III combined with the 300.
Difference, isn't it?
It's a slight difference between the two. That's how I would.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before. So the a9 Mark III, so this is new technology that's driving this. So this is a global shutter sensor. So with a traditional sensor, you have 2 shutters up and down, a lock. When you reach a certain point, you can't do that very fast, so you interlace over the top of the sensor. That gives you problems around shutter speed, for instance, or flash duration shutter speed. So you can only work up to 250 per second. With this, you don't have that. So in theory, what that means is you could go have the sun backlighting you really harshly, use a strobe setup and expose your subject correctly in a single exposure, so you can capture both elements of the light without that interlacing. So a real high-end professional feature. But what you also get with a global shutter is speed. So this will allow us to shoot at 120 frames per second. And if that isn't enough, we've also added a 1-second pre-capture. So what the pre-capture will do is, as soon as you lock focus on that on the subject, it starts recording in 0.1 increments. So you can do 0.1 all the way through to a full second, and it's just recording that for. So just in case you feel like you've not quite got the shutter timing right, you've already recorded a second beforehand anyway, so you shouldn't miss the shot in theory. Combined with this is our new 300mm 2.8 all the way through. Right. So in terms of like a top-end sports photographer with the Olympics in mind later in the year, this is a combination to go to. You've got speed, and it's very rare you can hold a 300mm lens at 2.8 with a body one-handed.
Yeah.
Right, fella.
Oh yeah, that's incredibly light and easy to hold. But yeah, it's got that. It feels solid as well. But there's no way you would normally hold a lens with that wrist. Oh.
No, I get that, yeah.
It looks to me like the ergonomics have changed. It's become a little bit rounder.
Correct, yeah. So we changed the ergonomics. One thing you will notice with the trigger finger, what you tend to do with a camera like this when you're holding it is your palm rests into the base here, and that naturally tilts your finger upwards. So having a flat surface means you have to then anchor. So you'll notice there's a slight lip on there, which means the trigger sits really comfortably underneath your finger. The bezel is also deeper as well for the grip. So this is designed to be working for a sports event, holding onto it for hours on end, and not feeling kind of the strain.
Because one of my experience with Sony, one of the things that it was like just a negative on the previous ones is that bit there always dug into, right? And I found that really uncomfortable.
Boxy, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So we made an adjustment on there. A couple of other things we've adjusted.
Really,
On the grip system, this little the locking nut for the grip system before sat on the surface. And the problem with that is when your camera is sat next to your chest, after a while it starts to rub, it starts to break. So we've now indented that in underneath the screen. We also have a screen that tilts out in every kind of angle you could imagine. So whatever you're shooting, you're going to be able to tilt the screen to adjust. And then the last thing that we've added from an ergonomics perspective is you've got a customizable key here, and it's also doubled up as the boost button. So for instance, if you're shooting at maybe 60 frames per second, but then you need access to the 120 frames per second, just push your finger in, and that can then automatically switch to it doubling the shutter speed. So that's a new feature that's on there as well. And again, it's just designed for working professionals, trying to sort of save them from repetitive strain injury, basically, just by making sure a camera is well designed.
I think that was my only gripe really with Sony, wasn't it? It was this bit at the bottom there that was dug into my head. Oh, that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's a big thing when you shooting all the time. You're thinking,
If you're using this equipment all day,
Yeah.
comfort in using it is just as important as everything else, really.
The big thing we did with the first iteration of the A9 and then the A9 Mark II and stuff is like put it in the hands of professionals and then spent real time understanding what they liked and what they didn't like. Trying to take all of those learnings and then embed them into the Mark III, rather than us as engineers or body engineers going, okay, right, we think we know what's right. They're not working professionals. Let's talk to the working professionals, take that feedback and then design a product around that. And we've been able to encompass it in this, and so far the reports are really, really, really good.
Go back to this camera and sort of the balance. When you get people come up now, most people come up and say, you might say, well, what sort of photography do you do? Do you get people that actually now come to you and say, don't use the word photographer at all? They'll say, I'm a content creator, I'm a vlogger.
100%.
And they don't think of themselves as a photographer. So
Look at the show. The show changed its name a few years ago into the photography and video show. It shows how much of a segment that market is now consuming. Lots of people come up to us. I have a 13-year-old daughter. Isabella, what do you want to do? I want to be a content creator. I mean, it's now a genre of work that children aspire to be. So you need tools that allow them to do that. And mobile phones are fantastic at doing it. But we're starting to see the technology and the cameras catch up and be just as versatile.
So do you see that increasing over the years then, compared to maybe your traditional type photographer who want this kind of thing? The market is changing to the bloggers, to the content creators.
If you're an aspiring photographer, long term you wanted to be a professional sports photographer, shooting sports teams and stuff, this is the holy grail. This is where you want to work to. We can't all get to there at a starting point. There's stepping stones to it. So this would give us the ability to do that. So as a starting point, it's not a case of when you start you're ill-equipped. You can now start with really good tools that can stick with you. So I think that's a really good starting point that's going to equip you to grow with your career. And then when you start to specialize as a creative, you can then drill into those specialist tools. So for instance, if you're a commercial photographer that shoots a range of products like in the studio, lifestyle stuff on location, the A1's fantastic for that because it's a great all-rounder. If you're doing a lot of heavy retouching work, the R5 is a fantastic app because it's so data rich, you can really pull those files apart. If you're shooting sports and you need speed, then you've got that, so you can start at an entry point with really good features. As you start to define and become pointy in your specialism, there's a tool that's there.
And it's scalable because, that's one of the great things about that. So that's your sort of entry level, I guess. And eventually would come a really good backup, wouldn't it?
Oh,
right?
That's full frame, isn't it?
Full frame, yeah.
It ticks so many boxes from that point of view. So what about sort of retail? People coming into this one here, what price are we looking at?
The body on its own comes at just under £2,000 body on. But we do also have a ZVE Mark X, so that is a APS-C sensor. So if you didn't want to go for the full frame, you can go for a smaller sensor, which would be the entry point. So if you look to that, with a 16-50mm lens, you're looking at around about £600.
Right, that's really good.
£600. That's a big difference between the two, isn't it?
That's right.
That's the difference between the APS-C sensor and the full frame. Also, again, you're starting out as a student, you're at university, who's got £2,000 as a student? No one. So £600, you're fully equipped to go do it. And there's not too much of a difference in terms of the technologies there. The big thing is the sensor size. And you go full frame, that's going to last you. It's a great size professional standard sensor.
Retail A9 body Mark III,
just over £6,000.
Just over six, and that's the That's the Sony flagship.
Flagship in terms of speed and sport. You then also have the A1 as a general all-rounder. So I think again, if you look at the specialisms, we have a flagship in each of those. But if you're looking predominantly speed, this is the guy. If you're looking at resolution, the R5 is the one. If you're looking at something that can do both very well, then the A1 would be the.
So product photographers would be using, what would be the one for product?
Either the R5 or the A1. I would probably, me personally, I'd steer more towards the A5.
Right, okay, wedding photographers,
either the A1 or something like the A9 Mark II or the A9 Mark III.
Yeah, and that's going to be the same for portrait photographers.
Same for as well. If you're a portrait, you're doing a lot of heavy retouching. I would probably go to the R series because when you start to play around with those files, it's data rich to play with in the first place. So that's where I would go for that.
Good stuff. Yeah, brilliant. Awesome. Okay, great, Luke. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Luke.
All right.